Welcome as we embark on an adventure into some serious wargaming. Yes, does this space look unserious to you? Thrill as we tweeze counters. Marvel as we squint and measure hexes in a desperate attempt to correctly apply the line of sight rules. And stand with mouth agape as we ponder combat resolution tables with modifications for everything but tooth decay. Yes, all this and more awaits us as we play at any cost. Metz 1870, this is the Franco-Prussian War. Now hold on, don't switch off, don't change the channel, because in actuality, this is a fantastic game. Becoming one of my favorite, just kind of the traditional hex encounter. It's got two things recommending it. One, for solo players, it gets my thumbs up for solo play because it uses a very interesting and compelling chip pull system, which it lends itself very well to solo play. So, thumbs up there. And of course, the other one is designed by Herman Luttman. And Herman Luttman knows how to bring great drama to his board games. He is famous for another one that is also one of my favorite solo play games ever, actually, wargame or otherwise, and that is Dawn of the Zeds. He has another one coming out called Plum Island Horror, Plum Island Horror, which is not going to be a siege like Dawn of the Zeds was. It's going to be more of a Dunkirk-esque evacuation game with zombies in it and things like that. But anyway, Herman Luttman, he's one of my favorite designers. I haven't actually played that many of them, but every one I played, I've just been impressed with. So you can expect more from him. Okay, let's take a look. So here we have the first scenario. Now, before we start, I'd like to just kind of disclaim that this is not a learn to play. And this is not going to be a rules explanation. There's other videos for that around that do that. Or better yet, just go to the GMT website and you can download the rules. Also, historical explanation too. Download the playbook and look at the end of that. It'll describe this whole battle, which I'm not going to do. Because basically I'm doing what I love best, which is just playing my games, and you're with the camera, you're just kind of looking over my shoulder and watching it in action. Now, of course, I'll be chatting it up, I'll be thinking out loud, strategies, I'll be soliciting your opinions and things like that. And of course, if you see any mistakes, which I have a feeling there's gonna be a few, go ahead and call them out. But anyway, here we are. This is called the Afternoon Crisis. This scenario it is. It's a small battle scenario, and while it's not billed as a training scenario, it has less of all the rules in here. But the good news is all the battle mechanics are here. Everything you need to do to fight and blow people up is here. So plenty of meat on the bone here. And I guess I'm also shooting it so that I see how this goes. This is probably one of the more daunting games, I would say. I tried to shoot with a camera. And we'll see how it goes. We'll start small and see what happens. Okay, so the Afternoon Crisis. The French advance across the Fond de la Couve, August 16th, 1870. Okay, this scenario depicts the long-delayed afternoon advance of the French right flank against the severely depleted remnants of the Prussian left flank between Mars-la-Tour and Vionville. The scenario is 5 turns long, beginning on the 4 p.m. game turn and ending at the conclusion of the 8 p.m. game turn. So how do we win? Well, the French will win. They'll win a minor victory if they can capture Vionville, which is down here, controlled by the Prussians at the moment. Here's all the Prussians down here. The ones in blue, of course, are the French. The ones in gray are the Prussians. And in case it wasn't obvious. So, minor victory for capturing that square there. And that is contingent on all the other victories. To get a major victory, I capture this and both squares of Mars-la-Tour. For an overwhelming French victory, I capture Vionville, these two, and Tronville down here. And any other result is a Prussian victory. All right. That's enough preamble for now. I think it's best with like a war game like this to just get into the action. It'll start becoming clear fairly quickly. It's actually relatively straightforward. But anyway, the first step, or the first in the sequence of play, is the planning phase. That's where we put all the eligible chips in here. I've already done that. I'm going to go into detail there, because there's really no planning phase for the small scenarios. It kind of just says put these in the cup and start drawing, because that's the second part. We're going to draw, and basically nobody moves unless they have the corresponding chip that lets them move. So let's go ahead and grip in here. And we pull our first one. Oh, okay. This isn't actually an event. Prussian Aggressive Tactics. It's actually a play. It's kind of a gotcha for the French. What did I say? A gotcha? And actually, it's a take that. I'd call it a take that chip. Prussian Aggressive Tactics, which we play immediately. Select any one Prussian unit, or infantry, or cavalry that is within 2 hexes of any French combat unit. The selected Prussian unit is immediately moved, if not already adjacent, by the French player. Adjacent to any French unit. The selected unit only must then conduct assault combat against a French-occupied hex chosen by the French player. Okay. So basically, I, as the French, get to pick anything that's within 2 hexes, and it looks like there's only 2. It's like these 2 guys, who are just detachments. They're not very big or strong, and they're both low on ammo. But those are our targets. Let's move in a little closer here. So we're going to pick this one, because he is actually in a good position. He's up here on a hill and in a forest, which is good cover, but for whatever reason, for Prussian Aggressive Tactics, he's going to come out of his cozy little spot into this ravine, and this is called engaging. Whenever you move adjacent to an enemy that's engaged, there's no zones of influence in this game, but there is engagement. So whenever you move adjacent, that's called engaging. And worse for this group is everything that is adjacent to him can do what's called defensive fire. Every unit in these stacks here is just going to pour the lead on, and this is potentially going to be quite the bloodbath. I don't even think these guys are going to get a chance to assault as the French get ready to pour the lead. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units here potentially going to fire. For in this instance, we have a brigade here, and then we have artillery underneath it, and we have the infamous mitrailleuse, basically the machine gun, which the French had. And here's another brigade and some artillery, and again brigade, artillery, and mitrailleuse underneath. So let's, we can do the ascending order of fire. You can see a fire in any order here. I'm gonna actually hold off on the artillery, even though he's in canister range, which can really rip him up. But I have to be careful with French, because French artillery is, if they get low ammo, they're hard to resupply, unlike the Prussians. But if we start from, let's start with this guy. He's the lowest one, but he's still going to be able to do some pretty impressive feat here. Let's take a closer look at these counters, and let's look at a standard brigade counter here, if we will. And all right, at the top we have here, it's the 2nd Brigade. I don't know how to pronounce that. Nerol is the division commander, and this is the 3rd Corps. And they all fire in corps. You'll see how that works here. This is 7 is his tactical cohesion rating. That's his morale and experience and whatnot. There's a strength point, 4. And I think a strength point equals like 600 men, so 6 times 4, that's 2,400 men about. And that's his movement allowance there. But the only thing we're interested in is that one, 4. His strength of 4. So let's pull out. And he is going to fire on this detachment. It's not quite brigade strength of the 3rd Corps. And let's see what that will look like on a resolution table. All right, and I'm not going to do this I'm not going to just walk through each one of these every single time, but I just wanted to get you the feel of it. Strength point is firing. So we start here, the French unit. I'm just using that tactic there to chip to kind of track it. Starts at a 4. Now, French infantry and the mitrailleuse all get a 1-column shift because they have superior weapons. The French have the Chassepot rifle, breech loaders. We are now in the breech loading era, and so they get the 1-column shift. They also get, and the enemy unit, or the Prussian unit, is actually in a ravine. And so that's 2 column shifts to up here. And I think those are the only modifiers. Now we're rolling on that 8 column. You roll 2 dice. Oh, big fingers. Red dice for the French, and this is actually a morale checking dice. And we roll them both at the same time to save time. And here we go. Fire! A 10 and an 8. That's going to be quite devastating. So we go over here, and we up this down to the 10 column. That is a casualty hit. We don't even have to look at the morale, the 8. We're doing big damage on them. Let's go back to this unit. And like many war games, you know that a lot of counters have a fresh side, and on the flip side is their kind of their damaged side, or the broken side, if you remember from Atlantic Chase, you know, having to flip the counters after they're damaged. However, in this case, a detachment is a small unit, so it does not have a fresh side. It only has, well, it's called battle worn in this side, although this is not technically battle worn, but it's small, that it might as well be. And so, and it's a casualty hit, and so he has to roll a die. So he is rolling against his TCR of 8. And when we roll the dice, if it's higher, he's going to break. 9, yes, he's going to break. And because he's battle worn and all that, he's failed. The unit is broken. He is removed from the map. And he actually goes into units eliminated in this game. And he, well, wait, I made a mistake. He's a detachment. Because they're like that, they're out. Because he can always make more detachments. But he has been wiped off the map. So that's pretty good for the French. We got rid of this guy out up in this here. If he had stayed up there, he might have slowed us down a little bit, trying to dislodge him so we can kind of make our advance in here. I guess that we'll talk a little strategy, is that I think ultimately the best is to just, you know, just pour people down this valley. There's a hill here, there's a hill here. And you might think, do you really want to be like that, coming down this narrow path? Well, a couple things. One is the Prussians are armed with, this brigade here is armed with the needle gun, the Dreyse, which is not nearly as effective as the French Chassepot. He can only shoot to that hex maximum. He can shoot 4 hexes, 2 to be effective. He can only shoot 1 to be effective, so that's one factor. The other is, you know, popping these guys through here, this ditch, this forest and hill and things like that, that is really going to slow me down. Last time I did a practice run of this scenario, I was able to capture Vionville, but it took me, there's only, let's see, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turns to capture that, and that, and tromping through these woods is took me the whole time. I was only able to capture Vionville and had no time to do anything else. So ultimately, I don't see any profit from trying to Fitzcarraldo through all this junk here. So I think in the ultimate strategy is we're just going to pour down here. The lead guy obviously might take some brutal here. We should talk about this artillery piece here. And according to the line of sight rules, as best I can tell, he can only see to this head. Well, he's trying to see up this way. You can probably see that and things like that, but he can only really see that one as far as this valley is concerned. And that's because you, whenever you're tracing line of sight and you're splitting along this little line right here, you always have to take the least advantage, the terrain that's the least advantageous. And that in that case would be a hill with a forest in front of it, and that forest blocks the cannon's line of sight. So I'd either have to move him to get a straight shot at all these guys, or just let them come down, and at this point it'd be at canister range. And maybe that was the idea here, I'm not sure. But line of sight, tell me how you do line of sight. I know I've used strings, I've seen people use strings, rulers, index cards, anything, but look what I found in my wife's sewing kit is this neat little doohickey, and this is called a Seamer ruler. I'll spell that out for you. And I guess it's for making seams when you're, making dresses or whatever. But look what I can do with it. Is you got a nice, come on, focus in here on that. Oh, it's not going to because it's clear, isn't it? Let's try that. It's got a nice little X there. And of course it's center to center when you're doing LOS. So I can plop it right here and put it right in the center of that one. And now I can see, what kind of hexes it intersects the whole time. I can see right through it rather than a ruler where I have to kind of, cut off half of my view. And this is great. It's like 6 inches long, so it's like 9 hexes. And like the Prussian artillery maximum is 8, so it's not too long, it's not too short. So yeah, tell me what you guys use. I think this is really amazing. Yeah, Seymour ruler. That's what I'm going to be using. Anyway, that's I'm actually going to stop there, and we will continue the battle. Start drawing these, start getting these units moving. We just happen to have, the French just happen to draw a really lucky first event. Bring that guy in here and just blast him to pieces. But now we got to figure out how we're going to move down there and take over this thing. So join us next time when we see what the Prussian reaction is. We'll draw the next chip. And thanks for watching.